Hello, it's Mary Beth Shaw here to talk about my creative practice and my so-called daily creative practice journal. The month of May, it hasn't been daily. It's kind of been the binge practice journal, like I slam out some pages and then I move on to the next thing. But you know what? That is exciting in its own way because I'm still working in it for one thing, and I'm still excited about it for another thing. I love this journal. Every time I look at it, it pleases me so much. And to think that I've gotten through 5 months. Now granted, these aren't like enormous creations, but I have gotten through 5 months of this, and that pleases me. So the month of May, what did it mean for me? Well, it meant that I came back home and I was in town and I got to do some things that make me happy, and that was fun. I want to pull out some stencils that I used this month because I wanted to show you some of these that I guess I just hadn't thought that much about them, and it was fun using them. This first one, it really pleases me a lot. This one is by Sally Hurst, and it comes with inside a mask, so you can, put a color down in the background. But I was just using it kind of as one of my integrator stencils. This section right in here, like if you just imagine looking at these parts, this is like the greatest integration section I've seen in a stencil in a long time. It really thrills me using this to integrate. It's been awesome. And I think also this angular section is really nice for like corners and so forth. I don't know, I do so much work on these, it's always questionable if I can even find where I used the stencils, but I did use them in here, and they were a thrill to use, truly a thrill. So I just wanted to be able and point that out to you. So this was the one stencil I used. This is a club stencil that I used, and here's what I like about this one. And if you are part of our Stencil Club, you can go ahead and buy this stencil, because when you're a member in the club, you get to go back and buy past months of the exclusive stencils. There's this one that Seth and I designed together, and here are the parts I like. First, I liked these long cross shapes, and they were pretty cool. I was actually using them in a painting last week, and then the stencil was laying around, so I thought, oh, I'm going to use it again. This little bit right here with these circles coming through it is just gorgeous, as is this line here. These are lovely ways to get some fluidity and some movement in your work. I'm going to be reaching for this one more frequently. It was pretty fun to realize how much I loved it, right? And then triangles. This is a Ray Missigman stencil that I used on this big spread here. This is my pause spread. It's about taking a pause. And here's the thing I like about these triangles is you can make it so they literally dance across a page, and you can use them to essentially move the viewer's eye. And then I have this one down here. They are just a thrill to use that way. I realized I meant to outline these, so I'm going to just outline a couple of them here. Because it's got almost a linear part here, and then this is a little circular part and another circular part. So I just literally danced them across the page, and then I did it in another color, and then I did it in another color. And some of them I drew around with a pencil, and some I did not. But it's a very fun way to move the viewer's eye across the page, these triangles. And the last one I use is, I also use my periodic tables. They're here in the background. as some texture. They're not super obvious. Maybe down here I outlined them a little bit. I used my periodic tables. But then lastly, I used this little gem from Jane Monteith. What a beauty. I mean, another integrator. You can, you think at first, oh, this is kind of a large format, but not necessarily. You can use this, trying to see if I can find where I used it. I can never find where I used them afterwards. And you know what? I think that's a good thing, truly. But so if I'm looking at a big stencil like this and thinking about integration, I look for the intersections. So let's move this away and we can see it better on the black. So if you're wanting to integrate, I would look at an intersection like right here and take that, because this is going to be a nice little grounding moment, and then spreading into some openings that can pull your eye around again. Or this one, or this one. There's great integrator parts in this stencil. All right, enough about the stencils. Let me show you my pages, and you've already had a little sneak peek here. I was on a color toot, people. I don't even know what to say. I created these folders as part of that class I took with Andrea, and I had already gessoed and painted the folders, so I was largely in a color scheme here, and it was bright and happy and perky and all the things. And then I found some stickers and did May 23. Well, then I got inside and I decided to do these two as super bright as well, but I used some vintage, some found elements, some this is like I was cutting something out, and this was the negative space. This was the part left behind. These so-called garbage that I love it when you put it into something and it looks cool, right? But then I opened up there, and then I did these. This was next. And I think you can see that I was maybe in a bit of a more neutral kind of place. So it looks like I've had some kind of crazy happening between painting the outside and painting the inside. But, that tells a story in and of itself, in my mind. And particularly when you look at pause, and you know that that is my modus operandi right now. Pause, and then down here I was using pattern pieces. Pattern adjustment. These are not random glue downs. It's like I glue this stuff down and I pulled this because I like that phrase. It says pattern adjustment, but it says pattern, right? And so anyway, these are the things that weave their way into my journal spreads and help me when I go back years from now and look at them, because I do. And then I'll remember, oh yeah, remember that. Yep, I sure do. And that's just kind of cool, right? So anyway, that's the outside, the little gatefold pose. That is the outside of it. And then I came to these two spreads, and I decided to go neutral and just play with some vintage things. I have some boxes of old stuff that I'm just trying to work my way through it. It's things that survived the flood and I want to use, or things I cut out. And I mean, you can even see wet parts here. The wet, that's a stained page from something. So these are parts I'm using up, and I'm really having a lot of fun with them. The map is a reference back to the travel that I've been doing. Beforehand, before the pause, I was traveling. Exercise, always a big part of my life. I have to stay moving, and in order to be healthy, I usually walk almost every day, and I do yoga several times a week. So these things are important to me, and it guides me as I move back into, more in my pause space. This is some old typewritten, kind of like an onion paper. Super cool. and I glued it upside down because the text was not particularly relevant to what I was doing here, but I didn't want that to detract. I just wanted it to be a little visual up there, so that's why I glued it upside down. And then the other pages, I decided to go back to something a little bit brighter, but not all the way. And again, playing with things that I had on hand, not developing anything special, but just pulling things out. And I actually used the rubbing. Oh my goodness. I have these rubbings. This is one, and then this little butterfly's one. I have rubbings, but I'm just going to confess, I am a rubbing purchaser and a rubbing hoarder, because I get them and then they're so pretty and I'm afraid to use them. So I use some in here. Oh, and then I used this was rubbing too. I think this was from Tina Walker's shop. And anyway, just lots of fun. A lot of my usual things. You know, for me, I gotta just say, journaling it's so much of a self-soothing activity. It brings me back to who I am. It helps ground me. It helps me get ready for the next thing. And I cherish the time that I have to work in these little creative practice, monthly, daily, whatever you want to call them. I am really thrilled with the fact that I'm committing to this, and it is still working. So I hope you find something you can commit to with your work, and I would love to know about it if you want to send me a note. And the stencils that I've mentioned will all be linked up below, along with my Amazon shop and how to get in touch with StencilGirl Products if you need to find us anywhere. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.